Hi, hello, welcome. I have tea tonight, this evening, and I'm tired. So let me try that again. Hello, welcome. I'm Anna. I write stories. I have tea, and I have something to say about ideas. Specifically talking about my own process. Basically, where do my ideas come from? I think I mentioned this in my last video. I have a folder on my Google Drive because I use Google Drive because I can access it from my phone, which I always have with me. So if I get an idea like at any point, I can just open my phone and then write it down. It just works across all of my different devices. So I have a folder in my Google Docs called Writing. And in that folder, I have 14 folders that are specific story ideas. So that would be a lot of folders. And then inside of those folders are more folders, and then lots of documents, and then there's free-floating documents, at least 10. So I have a lot of ideas, but I've heard it said that ideas are cheap, and I would agree with that. What makes that saying true, that ideas are cheap, is not the ideas themselves. Ideas are sparkling gems and jewels, but you have to get the gem out of the rock in the cave. Like, you have to dig it out. You have to do a lot of work to make that gem that you found in the mine in the cave and make that into a piece of jewelry. Like, there's a very long, complicated process involving quite a lot of skill and artistry in order to make it a beautiful piece of art. In that way, ideas are cheap. I could make the argument, I'm not going to today, but I could make the argument that there are no bad ideas, but there's really bad execution on good ideas. It is more often the case that the idea was good and the execution was bad. And right now a lot of bad ideas are popping into my mind. So there are bad ideas, or just not what you want in a piece of jewelry or a piece of art or something like that. So there are bad ideas. Take a drink of tea every time I get too far in the weeds. Yes, so ideas are cheap in that it takes a lot of work to get from idea to art, from concept to fully developed thing. In my case, stories, a book. I have a lot of ideas, which is great. That's a lot of material to work with. What I'm short on is time, as many of us are. And that's a challenge. If you want more about me talking about time and finding time and the struggle of that was in the last video. I'll link it. It's fine. We're talking about where all of these ideas come from. And honestly, I don't know. I know what I do when I want to get new ideas. So I'm going to talk about that. Where exactly these ideas come from and what's the magic potion or the secret ingredient formula to get ideas to come. I don't know. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm just going to share with you what I do when I'm feeling dry on ideas, or when I look at my giant folder of ideas and say, all of these are dumb or whatever, and I just need something fresh and new to get me excited for even a different project. Basically, what I do is I do something else. That something else for me has to be creative. Like many creatives, I don't just write to express my creativity. So what I do is I will sit on the couch. I will sit over there early in the morning before anyone's awake, and I will crochet, and I will let all my thoughts from the week just percolate, because I'm making something, and that does something in my brain where it's like, hey, we're getting creative, here we go. So that helps. I am getting into the habit of journaling consistently. I have always journaled, but I go in spurts, and I'm trying to get a little bit more consistent, because when I journal, it helps helps me decompress, which then allows me to get the noise out of my head and let the creativity in. That's also why I go on walks quite a bit. I also have a toddler who loves seeing cars, and we live on a really quiet cul-de-sac. So I take him on walks to busier streets, and we go on the sidewalks so he can see cars. But then I'm outside getting exercise and letting my brain work. Speaking of the toddler, he's not asleep yet, and he's sad about it. It was a risk we took, recording this early before the children were officially asleep. What was I talking about? Oh, going on walks. Exercise, getting outside, being in nature, getting fresh air is always going to be beneficial for creativity, I think. There's enough evidence of that. I don't need to really belabor that point. The other thing I do, so I crochet, I go on walks. I also sing a lot. I will listen to music that I can sing to. Is just, again, doing something creative helps me be more creative. It's one of those, like, what is that, like, sleep training thing? Like, good sleep begets good sleep, and bad sleep begets bad sleep. Creativity begets creativity. It's kind of like that. I will do that. I will sing. I will pick specific songs that I like to sing along with and come up with harmonies for, or just really just sing all out there, or just really get goofy with it. And like, I'll imitate the person who's singing because they don't sound like me. And that's sometimes fun. I read aloud to my kids, and I do all the voices. I can't not do the voices. When I don't do the voices, when I'm like reading books to my kids, it feels wrong. Like, on the note of songs, I will also get songs, pick songs to listen to that I like to dance to. I like dancing. I'm not like a dancer, but I like to do it. So I will put effort into it. Where my ideas come from is from doing those things, or my ideas will then happen after I have been doing creative things. And then it's like I open the dam, or I open the gates, and just like whoosh, this whole new flood of creativity comes in. I have several like things I'm looking at my screen. I'm looking at my Google Drive screen right now, and I can see different stories, or I'm like, okay, that was from that song. This one's from a book I read. This one's from a documentary I watched. This one's from, so that's like different things. So it's from playing with my kids. This one's from going to an art museum. And like, so doing creative things and experiencing creativity always gives me more ideas to be creative with. That's where a lot of my story ideas come from. Pretty much all of them. My bad story ideas that just like tank really bad are me forcing it and me trying to come up with something just like out of the blue, trying to just spontaneously come up with something. I'm not super great at that by myself. I'm really good at it for other people. Anyways, that was a quick rundown of like where for me I get a lot of inspiration and my ideas come from is really from other art, is from being creative myself, like crocheting or singing or dancing myself, like doing it myself, but also being a patron of arts, I suppose. I was going to say consumer, but that's kind of the wrong vibe. But being a patron of arts, going to art museums, watching well done documentaries. And that's the other thing for me is those things, experiencing creativity, doing it myself, and being a patron of the arts, that refills me. It also inspires me. It also, I was thinking of the journaling and going to like art galleries and things, and going on walks is really helpful for my busy brain, is what we call it, when your mind is just going. Like when you lay down, you're like, oh, I'm so tired at the end of the day, and you lay down and then your mind just like ramps up and you get, and not necessarily always anxiety, but just busy of like processing everything, thinking about things. You're like, why am I even thinking about that? It's just that busyness in your brain, and you'd have to like slow down and stop. Creativity helps me do that. And when my brain is too busy, there's no space for being creative. There's no there's no space for it. To get ideas coming and ideas flowing, I have to calm the storm in the brain and quiet the busyness, decompress, and then refill. And that is really, for me, where my ideas come from. My other thing I really love to do to get ideas is people watch, which does not fit in any of these categories we talked about, is a great inspiration, because people are fascinating. Because you get inspiration of like how people actually talk, how people actually behave, and it's really good character inspiration. We can do a whole thing about just how people are so interesting. So interesting. That's why we write books about them all the time. We make up people. We love people. Anyways, and then when I want to write a story, I will typically go into my deep folder of all the things I've got in it, and I'll pick an idea that's got some weight to it, got some depth, but maybe it's missing a few things. So I'll look in some other ones and be like, do these 2 stories or 3 stories or these characters from this idea over here and this concept from over here, do these make something interesting? I will take this story, I have it right here, I see it right there. Last Librarians is its working title, and it was inspired by ruffles on little baby girl bloomers. Had these like ruffles on the butt, and across the little bloomers you put over the diaper, there's just ruffles. And then I got them for my girls, my babies, and then when they grow older, they tried to like continue that trend of the ruffles, but like on the bottom of like their pants, which was really cute. And I was like, ruffles have been in clothes for a long time. So then I went on this like deep dive of historical clothing that had ruffles. And so I was like into the ruffles, and I was a 90s kid. So I had like the lacy socks, which is basically ruffles. And so I had this whole deep dive about ruffles, and it became a very integral part of this world. Not so much the story, but this world I was building in this one story idea. It doesn't have a plot at the moment. It just says characters and world building, which is fun, but not a story, which is why it's in the ideas folder. That's one story idea. So it's like taking all of these little ideas and like smoosh it together and be like, ooh, what does this make? It's like when you get like Play-Doh as a kid and you like take all the different colors of Play-Doh and mush it together, but it's more fun because it actually makes something instead of just like gray. That's basically how my ideas for stories happen. The 2 books that I've written, one of them was inspired by the Silmarillion, which is probably my favorite book, but that's a thing. So I was inspired by that, and I worked on it for 10 years, and it became my own mythology that I don't always use, but it is there, and I love it. And then my other book that I more recently finished was what if the X-Men and Doctor Who had a crossover, and I wrote that. It was fun. I love time travel stories, so I wrote a time travel story. It's basically Doctor Who and the X-Men. It was very fun for me, but I don't know if it's good enough to put out there, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. So like that's where my ideas come from. So yeah, it's a little chaotic, but it works. So we're not gonna mess with it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's all I've got for today. Maybe next time we'll talk about... all right, we'll do it. Next time we will talk, and hopefully I will have made some more progress on this. We will talk about the fact that I am, in my heart, I am a discovery writer, but I need plotting. I need an outline. That is for next time. I'm saying it out loud, so I've got some accountability here. Okay? Okay. Until next time. Bye-bye.